Hi everyone, it's Lalitaa here, and today's video is all about why is it that I struggle to be vulnerable. And when I use the word vulnerable, I'm talking about being emotionally vulnerable for this particular video. So what is it about me that stops myself from being emotionally vulnerable? What is it that goes on for me? Now, vulnerability is very powerful. It's how we show up in the world. It's how or what we choose to share with other people in the world, and that might be our thoughts, our feelings, our behaviors. And what we will do is we will share certain things with certain people because we feel safe. Vulnerability is all around us feeling safe with our emotions, with our thoughts, with certain people, in certain situations. And the opposite of feeling safe is unsafe. And unsafe is where we can be judged, somewhere we can get hurt, somewhere where we may feel like a failure, where these distressing emotions might come up for us. And that's why what we're doing is we're trying to avoid these distressing emotions, so we close ourselves up to not show parts of us that we want other people to see, because there's a sense of that might be dangerous for me to do that might be unsafe for me to do that, so we close up. So for example, I know that people can sometimes struggle to be vulnerable in friendships or romantic relationships because there's a fear of, but I may not be accepted if I show someone how anxious I am, or show someone how I can stress out, or show someone how sad I might be, or how lonely I might feel. So because of not wanting to show these emotions out of fear of what's going to happen or what the other person might do, we then choose not to show that vulnerability, choose not to share that part of us, because we feel if we do that, it's going to lead us to us feeling this distressing emotion or being judged or being labeled as something. And this goes back into resilience. It goes back into how we have learned to be around people as well, how we've learned to socialize. So if we go back into our upbringing, back into certain experiences that may have happened, we may have learned that when I've been vulnerable in the past, it hasn't been okay. So for example, say growing up you crying and someone at school said, look, don't cry, it's okay, like it's fine. But you may have interpreted that as, okay, it's not okay for me to cry, or people are busy for me and I can't be emotional, I can't be vulnerable. So there may be other reasons of why we find it very difficult to be vulnerable. And this is where it's so important for us to do some deeper work, inner work of us really understanding about vulnerability and feeling okay with sharing emotions, sharing our thoughts, sharing our weaknesses, sharing our challenges, and being okay with what the consequences of that might be. Now, that doesn't mean that, right, go out and talk to everyone about everything that's going on. It's about understanding, okay, is this a safe place for me to be vulnerable, and not stopping and just having like this brick wall there that's stopping us from showing this vulnerable side of us, or this part of us that we want to show, but we're so afraid of showing. So by us understanding what is this sort of block that might be here, what is this wall that might be here that's stopping us from sharing parts of us, what's going on here? Because if we can go and understand what's going on here, it can then help us to be like, right, okay, do I choose to be vulnerable, or do I want to stay here and be safe here? But we have the awareness of what we're doing and why we're doing it. Because also people might feel that, right, if I'm vulnerable, maybe someone will support me, someone will protect me, someone will save me. So we always want to understand what the intentions are of being vulnerable, but also why we may stop ourselves from being vulnerable. I think I've said vulnerable so many times in that last sort of like 2-3 sentences. But the word vulnerability, sometimes people will say, oh, I don't want to show vulnerability because it means that I'm weak, or it means that I'm not good enough because I can't manage these emotions, or people will see what's really going on for me. So again, it can sometimes become like, I can't show people this side of me because there's a stigma attached to what might be vulnerability, or what we see as what vulnerability is. And vulnerability is different to every single individual, and everyone expresses and it feels their emotions very differently. So again, it's about trying to understand, what does it mean to you? And that's how you can communicate with other people. On that note, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just say that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be vulnerable. The more comfortable we are with our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviors, and understanding the deepest parts of us, the more comfortable we are with that, the more that it's going to be okay for us to be vulnerable. But it's choosing, where is it that we'd like to be vulnerable, and what that feels like for us. So if we can understand that, it just gives us so much more insight into who we are and the ways that we want to be vulnerable. So it's not just being like, oh, I'm going to be vulnerable with everyone. You don't have to be that way inclined, but just having the self-awareness of what vulnerability means to you, and when you're wanting to be vulnerable and you're not able to be vulnerable, it's understanding that to help you better communicate, to have deeper connections and deeper relationships where you can talk about emotions and thoughts and feelings without the fear of being judged, the fear of being hurt, the fear of feeling like a failure or feeling like that you're weak, because these are deeper beliefs that are stopping you from being vulnerable because of these experiences that you may have had. So on that note, I'm going to love you and leave you. I'm sending you lots of positive vibes and lots of love, and I will speak with you all soon. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy your rest of your day. Bye bye.